Hey guys, welcome back to T-Bones Tech. In today's video, we are going to be comparing the Canon SL2 against the Canon SL3. So first off, we're going to talk about price. The Canon SL2 is going to run you around $500 and the Canon SL3 is going to run you around $550 as of right now, but I will have links in the description down below where you guys can check out the current price of both these two cameras. But both these two cameras share the exact same 24 megapixel APS-C size sensor as each other. So as far as image quality, we're going to get very similar image quality, but the SL2 is going to have Canon's Digic 7 image processor and the Canon SL3 is going to have Canon's Digic 8 image processor. And that newer image processor in the SL3 is not going to help really too much with high ISO performance, but it's actually going to allow the Canon SL3 to shoot 4K video. As far as battery life goes, the Canon SL2 is approximately going to get 650 shots on a single battery, and the Canon SL3 is actually going to get over 1,000. Even though they both use the exact same LPE17 battery, the Canon SL3 is going to get almost double the amount of shots on the single battery life than the Canon SL2 is, and that's mostly thanks to the Canon SL3's newer image processor. It's going to use a lot less power. The newer image processor in the SL3 is also going to give us a much longer buffer. When shooting JPEG is actually going to be unlimited now, where the Canon SL3 is actually going to have a buffer of about 22 shots. So you can shoot 22 pictures in fully continuous shooting mode on the SL2, and then it's going to start slowing down, where the Canon SL3 is going to be unlimited. Now, as far as raw performance on the SL2, we're going to get about 5 raw frames before the buffer is going to fill up, and here on the Canon SL3, we're going to get about 10, so big performance there. Another big difference between these two cameras is the fact that the Canon SL2 can shoot 1080p video at 24 frames a second, and the Canon SL3 actually cannot shoot 1080p video at 24 frames a second. It can only shoot 1080p video at 30 frames a second or 60 frames a second. However, the Canon SL3 can shoot 4K video at 24 frames a second, and the Canon SL2 cannot shoot 4K at all. But the 4K on the Canon SL2 is going to be pretty decent, nothing too crazy. I did do a full video test of the Canon SL3 where I shot video at 1080p at 30 frames a second, 1080p at 60 frames a second, and 4K at 24 frames a second. So if you guys want to see my full video test of actually either one of these cameras, I will have it here in the cards where you guys can check out the full video test of both these cameras. Now, I actually have no idea why Canon didn't allow us to have the option to film 1080p video at 24 frames a second on the Canon SL3. It's really weird and very annoying, so that's definitely something to keep in mind. Personally, I absolutely love shooting 1080p video at 60 frames a second on either one of these cameras. It's going to allow you to slow down the footage 50% and still get really smooth video shots, and personally I really like filming that way. However, there are a lot of people who really take 24 frames per second video very seriously, and those people are going to have to choose whether they want 1080p or 4K. Another big difference between these two cameras is going to be that the SL2 does not have eye detect AF, and the Canon SL3 is going to have eye detect AF. It is very, very good for portraitures because you want to focus on the eye. It's going to be really handy to have that here on the Canon SL3. As far as build quality goes, I personally believe that the Canon SL2 actually has a little bit better build quality than the Canon SL3. It seems like they made the SL3 just a little bit cheaper, and I definitely don't like that. All the materials feel very premium here on the Canon SL2, and the SL3 just feel a little bit cheaper. It seems like with the Canon SL3, Canon definitely cut some corners in build quality, and they also skipped out on a couple of different features. So the Canon SL2 is going to have an automatic pop-up flash. There's actually going to be a button here on the side where you press it, and the flash is going to pop up automatically. Or if you're in automatic mode and you go to take a picture where you need the flash, it's also going to pop up automatically as soon as you press the shutter button. However, that is not the case with the Canon SL3. It's only going to have a manual flash. Now, personally, this isn't going to be a huge deal breaker for me. You're just going to have to flick it up just like that yourself. It's not a big deal, but it's just an example of how Canon really did cut corners with the Canon SL3, and they just made it a little bit cheaper. And another example of that is going to be the fact that the Canon SL2 is going to be able to use any flash. It's going to be able to use manual flashes, cheap $40 flashes. You can actually just mount them to the top, and the camera is going to be able to fire them. But here on the SL3, it actually drops support for manual flashes, like the old flashes that you buy, or again, like those $40 ones on Amazon. The Canon SL3 is actually not going to support those cheaper manual flashes. You're going to have to use a Canon flash, or a flash that's actually going to communicate with the camera body, and that's definitely another downgrade here on the Canon SL3. But all the buttons and all the knobs here on the Canon SL3 and the Canon SL2 feel the exact same. I think they're pulled from the same Canon's parts bin. They're all going to feel very good. Also, another note to say is that the Canon SL2 actually has more modes on the mode dial than the Canon SL3. Canon actually dropped a couple different modes off the mode dial. Nothing too crazy, nothing that you're going to worry too much about, but that is another difference here. As far as weight goes, the Canon SL2 is going to be a little bit heavier than the Canon SL3. The SL3 is just going to be about 3 grams lighter than the Canon SL2. You're really not going to notice that at all, but it definitely is worth mentioning. Some other similarities between these two cameras is going to be the fact that the Canon SL3 and the Canon SL2 are going to have these really nice variable angle touchscreens that are going to be really good for vlogging or for taking pictures that are high up. They're also going to be touchscreens, so you can easily just pinch to zoom to check your key focus. They are very handy and very nice. They're also both going to feature Canon's Wi-Fi camera connection, which is going to allow you to actually connect both these cameras to your smartphone, and then you can actually see your live screen here on the smartphone. Very, very cool apps, and they both work very good on both these two cameras. Both these cameras are really good. Usually with an update like the Canon SL3, I would assume it's going to be better in every single way than the Canon SL2, but unfortunately there are going to be some things that are missing on the Canon SL3 that the Canon SL2 has. It's really weird and confusing. I would say if you own a Canon SL2, don't sell it, keep it. It's going to be great unless you really need 4K video. But if you don't have either one of these cameras right now, I would recommend picking up the Canon SL3 probably because it has much better battery life, and that really does make a big difference. Plus that iDetect AF is also going to make a big difference, and you're also going to get 4K video, which is going to be nice. But now it's time to get into the fun pixel peeping part, where we're going to stack these cameras right up next to each other and see which has better image quality. Okay, so we have two sample pictures here loaded up. The picture here to the left was shot with the Canon SL2, and the picture here to the right was shot with the Canon SL3. All the settings were the same. In these first two pictures, the ISO was 100. So let's zoom into the Kodak logo, and here we can see that it is very sharp and everything looks really good on both these two cameras. I can't really tell you if one is sharper than the other. Let's take a look at the logo here. And again, we can see that the sharpness is basically going to be the same here at ISO 100. And here we can see both the corners are very sharp. And of course, I did use the exact same lens. Here we can see the autofocus elements right here, again, are basically just as sharp on both the cameras. And again, this is at ISO 100, so this is definitely to be expected. We're expecting both these pictures to be basically the exact same quality. But next, we're going to load up two pictures here shot at ISO 1600. Okay, so now we have these two pictures shot at ISO 1600, and let's actually just zoom in. The picture here to the left, again, was shot with the SL2, and the picture here to the right was shot with the Canon SL3. And again, I tried to line them up as best I could. So let's zoom in here and check for sharpness. Here we can see at ISO 1600, again, both are going to be very, very similar. I think the actual color seems to be a little bit brighter here on the SL3. Of course, keep in mind that the SL3 is brand new, and the Canon SL2 I've had for about 2 years. So there might be a little bit difference there just because the SL2 is actually older. If you have a brand new unit, it might be a little bit better. But as we can see here, the sharpness seems to be very, very similar on both. If we take a look at the corners, again, the sharpness is basically about the same. And if we take a look at noise, potentially the SL2 is a little bit cleaner and free of noise than the Canon SL3 is, but both are going to be very, very similar when using higher ISOs. Next, we're going to take a look at ISO 25,600. And here we go. Both these pictures were shot at ISO 25,600. So again, let's zoom in and check for sharpness. Here we can see that the SL2 might look barely a little bit duller. Maybe it doesn't look quite as sharp as the SL3. I think the SL3 just looks a tiny bit better. But here on the SL3, we can see way more noise. Even though it does look sharper in some areas, it definitely looks more noisy in other areas. Moving over to the corners here, let's take a look and see the sharpness difference. And again, maybe the SL2 looks a little bit more clean and free of noise than the SL3 is. I'm not entirely sure why, but as far as which picture looks better, I would say the SL3 looks a little bit more natural, looks a little bit more better, even though these are shot at the exact same settings. Let's zoom into the corner here and check for noise one more time. And here we can see the SL3 seems to be a little bit more noisy. There's more reds in the noise here on the SL3, where the SL2 seems to handle it a little bit better. I'm not entirely sure why, but either way, both these cameras are very good at high ISOs, and both are relatively clean and really not bad, considering that both these two pictures were shot at the max ISO of these two cameras. Well, that's all I got for you guys in this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to give me a big thumbs up down below, and also leave me a comment telling me which camera you have, or which camera you want to get, or which camera you choose over the other. I'm definitely very interested to know. But that's all I got for you guys in this video. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one.